Well, howdy, virtual denizens. This is the Brutal Sloth. I'm starting this channel up so that I can play games, discuss them, the industry surrounding them, my strategies, and development practices, all good and bad. Perhaps down the road I will delve into some pop culture and deep analysis, but firstly, I'm going to do this video on Dragon's Dogma 2. I'm going to begin with a review of my experience and the things that I've heard from other players around the internet, and then I will do a quick startup guide for what was working out for me and my experience with the first Dragon's Dogma. So, let's begin. Why all the heat and hatred that has been going on the internet? It seems most likely because monetization is one of the biggest ones to begin with. Big negative for many, including myself. Yes, there is purchasable content, including the deluxe version, which I did get the deluxe version myself, and it all pretty much boils out to a petty cash grab for some cheat codes and a gentle startup for yourself. Now, you'll get some weapons, some rings, rift crystals, a wake stone, and some gifts and recustomization chances. Now, I have heard that this stuff is getting patched, along with some of the other issues that I'll be mentioning down the road here, but I do not at all condone these monetization practices, as many will agree. It detracts heavily from the value of the game and the focus on just making a good game in general. However, this is generally just made to make the first 10 levels easier on the deluxe version. Then you pretty much replace all of it thereafter. Everything can be purchased in the game itself or easily earned. Again, no excuse for any of this monetization. I would really rather see it go away. Now, the next problem many people are having is optimization. I've read the struggles of many PC players are having with crashes, erratic frame rates, and awful controls. I mean, it just sounds like a nightmare. And that's just to name a few. I play on PS5 myself, and I haven't had very many issues to speak of. I mean, I've had some slight frame rate drops and a little bit of jank, but some of the jank that's in it is a little bit of the Dragon's Dogma charm. The first one was very similar in that kind of difficulty to navigate some situations. However, no major bugs in my experience, and I'm about 15 to 20 hours in, and I can't complain on that given the state how many bugs are launching these days, with just the opening for all games just being terrible. So overall, I'd give the game about a 7 out of 10. It seems Capcom is jumping on some of these major issues that people are having and working on a patch very diligently, and all the other aspects of the game are pretty well done to the point where I can't really complain. I mean, I'm having a great time, and if you stick to it and you really ride out the game and try to get as much done as you can, you'll find yourself just getting lost in it for long periods of time. The world's well built. I mean, the story isn't quite as engaging as the first one was, but it is overall a good experience. I'll give them credit. And it's much more large of a world this time, and I'm just having fun getting lost in it. It has great customization. There's a lot that goes along. As you can see, I made a pretty beefy slab of Sloth right there. And he just gets to lumber around and carry a bunch of weight. So I like that how many aspects of this character creation process actually have an impact on your gameplay and your experience and your character's attributes. Such as being able to carry more weight the bigger you are. That's a little tracker at the bottom of your development. And kind of seems, I'm still experimenting, but it does seem that your character's gait and posture has an impact on your run speed and stamina consumption. You're going to need a little bit more in-depth, but the other pawns in your group do seem to comment on how fast you run when you have a longer stride and a taller posture. But you can also even get the old man shuffle in there if you really want to. Next, outside of creating your character, vocations or classes are a very well done aspect of this game. You get a lot of options for play styles, and there's so much utility to each different kind of class, and I really like how whichever class you have built up, you can pick those augments out and attach them to other classes to kind of get more out of that class specifically. So having played the first Dragon's Dogma, I'd highly suggest starting as an archer or a fighter. Because if you really want to sink in to the melee grind, you can go fighter if you want, but I like to go with archer because it gives me an opportunity to roam around during battles, kind of pick off flying enemies or pinpoint strike on weak areas, and they also get some really great augments once you fill out the ranks of that vocation, such as there's a stamina boost and a bonus to weak point damage, which you're really going to want for pretty much any other class. So I take that first, build that up, and it gives me a chance to collect gear and discipline points for the other vocations to work on down the road. For my main pawn, I go with mage and try to keep her towards a healing, elemental damage, and support buff loadout so that she's a huge impact for any encounter you have along the way. Secondary pawns, I try to look for a fighter or a warrior for basically being my frontline tank. Make sure they have a taunt ability of some kind. Just keep an eye out for that. If you really want to step up your damage, you could take another thief, but I usually roll with a full damage loadout type of mage, because or if you get to a point where you can pick up a sorcerer, go ahead and get that, because having the extra elemental damage is good for almost any encounter, and having somebody else around to drop heals out or give more support is always useful. Now, once you get your healthy group together, and this setup I've just described should get you going pretty well and get you through most major encounters, don't neglect camping along the way, because you're really going to need to recover all of your health, and you get into points where you get into a big battle and you can't recover it through potions. So keep at least one set of camping gear on you. You don't have to keep more than one. For a while I thought you burn through them each time you use them, but it seems like whichever camp setup you roll with, it'll be permanent. So I just keep that on one of my pawns, and whenever I need it, I whip it out when I can find a campfire somewhere. And they're pretty regularly placed around. Now, one of my major complaints for the early game exploring specifically, it's not a big deal once you get deeper into your levels and you're able to take on bigger fights. But when you just get your first quest from Captain Bryant, you're kind of trying to get to these areas, and you find that griffins and drakes are dropping in on almost everywhere all the time, and that can be a little rough to navigate, especially if you're trying to do a escort quest somewhere along the way. Now, once you get used to running away and you can get your pawns to get out of there with you, just ignore stuff like drakes and griffins for a little while. Now, if you have taken my recommendation as starting up as an archer, there is a very specific NPC that is in the main city you're going to want to keep an eye out for. This fair-haired elf over here. He'll help you out with a quest that'll send you out into the woods, and it'll take you to some ruins where he just, tests out his bow real quick, and he'll give you a ring, which is really useful for being an archer. This ring right here, it'll show you that the closer you are to enemies, you'll do more damage. Now, if you pair that with the staggering ring you're likely to pick up along the way, it'll definitely be a big boon to you as an archer, because you'll just be able to get out a lot more situations easily. And since you don't have a dedicated dodge ability, you have this jump kick attack that'll give you some distance, and it'll make you much more likely to knock over an enemy with these rings on, and do more damage as well. Now, it just so happens these ruins you meet him in, you're going to want to explore them as well, because deep within them in a chest is a bow that's really easy to upgrade and outperforms pretty much anything you can buy or get your hands on at this point. So watch out for an ogre in there. It's pretty tight spaces. Other than that and some choppers, it's not too bad to get around in there. But once you find the bow, go on about your merry way, and go ahead and upgrade it, and go ahead and follow his quest up immediately if you want to, or if you'd rather go around and get some other hunting done, that's fine. But once you get the rest of his quest done, he will take you to a small elf coven that's out there in the woods, and this is a great place to drop your first port crystal. and because they've got some good items, they have their own upgrading, and it will also get a much better bow once you get done with his quest chain. After you, I believe it's his sister you save. So once you get out there and save his sister, his father will reward you with a bow that's really good and pretty much outperforms anything you're going to get your hands on for a while. Now, beyond this, again, I recommend stacking up your vocation, getting all of its ranks, and stacking up some discipline and some gear along the way. Don't just go around selling all the gear you pick up, because it could be useful for another vocation you decide to pick up down the road. So, you'll have access to augments, you'll have access to discipline points, you'll have access to gear if you just stick to one vocation for a long time instead of swapping around. I know it's tempting to test everything out at first, but you'll have a lot more fun testing out your next vocation if you have all these resources available to you. Now, lastly, don't neglect a woman that approaches you about house sitting in the main city, because this will open up an opportunity for you to eventually buy that house from her. And that's a really useful place to manage your inventory without having to talk to somebody. And it'll cost you nothing to come back to the city and rest, which is also very useful for passing time, recovering, etc. Well now, I hope you enjoyed the video and that all of this helps. Thanks so much for watching. If you have any suggestions for things that I should explore in the future, or games you'd like to see played, any extra info you want, or anything else you want me to add to my guide for a build or a startup, I'll be happy to make another video or more guides. And I intend to showcase some more vocation setups down the road. And I will be working on Elden Ring content and Souls-like content down the road. Those are really kind of my passion territories right there. And if you have any other video style or format, perhaps you're sick of hearing me talk, or perhaps you just want to see gameplay only, I can do that. Just drop your suggestions, and thanks again for watching. Please like and subscribe. Take it easy, y'all, and enjoy.